On today's show, the story of Minnesota's Band of Brothers, a group that wants all veterans to have a day in the field. Brave souls brave harsh weather to catch a peek of a most unique Minnesota moment. And Minnesota Vikings leave their field behind to enter a new one.
Minnesota Bound, presented by Connecticut Water Treatment Systems.
Hi everybody, Bill and I welcome you to Minnesota Bound.
Up first today, we head to northern Minnesota where geese are flying and workers want to make sure our veterans always have a chance to get outdoors.
A weekend spent in a most unusual goose pit blind built by a band of brothers.
Fall proves a season of peace. Life slows and temperatures cool. Out here, people find therapy on the prairie. Specifically at a lodge with a nickname so appropriate. The place where a band of brothers cooks with passion.
Yep, they call me the pit master.
Tonight, the menu is our signature North Shore spaghetti, Cheddar Bay biscuits.
Yep, those biscuits.
I'm Kurt.
Right now,
Nice to meet you.
Mike?
Justin. Nice to meet you, Justin.
Nice to meet you. All right, boys. Time to eat.
We sit down, we have a meal together. Everybody kind of gets to know one each other.
One bed downstairs open still?
No, because you snores.
That's horrible. That's
not a whiskey.
Usually we kind of hit the hay a little early.
And rest up for morning's big event. A goose hunt that kicks well before sunrise.
Hooked up with a professional organization, Pit Properties, who's going to put them on the birds.
They got the pits all heated and everything's ready to go.
You get 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Don't shoot outside of that or you're gonna give your neighbor a headache. Nobody likes to get their bell rung. It hurts.
A quick safety talk and a bit of goose pit prowess.
Well, practice first.
After all, practice makes perfect. Guests now settle in to wait for sunrise. It is here and now you understand what this trip and this band of brothers represents.
I was in the military in the Air National Guard for 9 years. And after leaving there, I was a police officer for 12 years. And I got injured in the line of duty in 2012 and I had to leave law enforcement. Several years later, I lost my son in an ATV accident and was at the darkest point in my life and was basically just reaching out.
I got a tough time just reintegrating back in with normal people, I guess you can say. I was in the 101st Airborne, and then I got out, and then I went into the reserves for a few years.
I was in the Marines for 15 years. We all have shared experiences. We all know what really happens in life that a lot of people just choose to ignore.
Veterans found that being here, outdoors, together, brought peace.
Band of Brothers Outdoors is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 2015. Being in the outdoors is something that helps a lot of people cope a little bit differently than maybe sitting in a room talking to other veterans.
The band now takes veterans hunting, fishing, and camping.
Oh, it's incredible. I know there's other groups out there, but these guys are doing it in a whole different way.
It's exciting for us to be able to see people come in that are maybe struggling to find something else to do.
Which led this group to the goose blind.
So just that comfort of being around other veterans really helps carry you through the day.
You get to experience nature and just kind of reconnect with things and along with yourself. You're able to connect with one another based on your experiences in the military.
Up next,
Get on, guys, get on.
hearts pump as birds fly. And breakfast is served in Minnesota's craziest goose hunting pit.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Connecticut Water Treatment Systems, Strike Master, Midwest Exteriors MN, and by Ice Castle Fish House and RV.
Minnesota's Band of Brothers gets veterans outdoors on all sorts of endeavors, from hunting trips to winter camping excursions.
Last fall, we tagged along as they dropped into Minnesota's craziest goose pit. Near silence greets a prairie pothole morning. Until Pit Properties wakes this landscape up. Tucked in neatly.
Shot my very first banded duck last year.
Okay.
Yeah, 4-year-old Woody.
A literal Band of Brothers kills time.
I'm having a good time, just sitting here goose hunting.
Hunting in a pit blind it's definitely an experience.
You know, this is deluxe hunting. We got our food, beverages.
Sure do.
Cinnamon raisin French toast here, cooked in bear grease.
This Pit Properties goose blind, or trench or pit, whatever you want to call it, hides hunters.
I've been sending Snapchats to a bunch of buddies of mine that I know that hunt, and they're like, where are you at? Like, there's no way that that's a pit. Oh yeah, there's power in here too.
We'll get some food.
Kind of like if you show up at grandma's house and she always wants to make sure you're fed. Yeah, this is a pretty amazing setup.
That's my first ever event with Band of Brothers. I'm not going to want to go back to a layout in the field.
By design, everything about this hunt, from the blind to the dinners, all exclusive to veterans who earn time outdoors.
We want you to be spoiled when you get here.
They just open the door, welcome you in, greet you, as if like they've known you forever.
We want you to feel like you're special, like you're welcome, and we want to lay out the red carpet.
It's an awesome experience. You can just sit in there and you can have the time of your life.
Get on, guys, get on.
And when it's time,
Get ready, guys. That's the way to start the day.
That was a good time.
Yeah. Everybody has a story, and that's one thing that doesn't get told.
when you get a dozen veterans, you'll learn a lot about one another.
Knowing that there's people here that I do know and that know me, and they know some of the emotional needs I have, and there's somebody I can lean on, it makes it easier to meet new people.
I was actually surprised on like how awesome it really was, just for me, for I don't know, my soul, I guess, and relate to people that are, you know, like me.
If you take part, just don't forget to bring along an appetite.
It's about lunchtime.
Seems they're always eating.
The real treasure is spending time with each other and really enjoying what Band of Brothers has come to be.
I didn't know anyone when I came here last night, and now I just know I'm meeting friends. It's building, like I said, a new family.
Here's Here's a wild kitchen tip for you. We're gonna talk about freezer burn. It's safe to say I think we've all been there. I made the mistake of freezing my goose in just a Ziploc baggie, not realizing that this is probably only gonna give me about 4 months of fresh meat. Now here's the good news. If you find that you have freezer burn on your wild game, it is still safe to eat. All you have to do is cut off any of the gray matter that you see hanging out on top there, and underneath you have fresh wild game. Okay, so here's the tip. Now remember, if you're gonna use a Ziploc baggie, it's about 4 to 6 months. If you want to extend the life of your wild game into a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years, you'll definitely wanna use a vacuum sealer or a food sealer to make sure it lasts that long and you can avoid freezer burn altogether.
Still ahead, we go back in time to celebrate the fall hunt alongside a few fairly recognizable faces. But first, people brave snow and cold to catch a glimpse of birds on the move.
Closed captioning provided by Star Bank.
Up next, a party of sorts along the Mississippi River where people can catch a view of some of North America's most majestic birds.
If they are willing to brave the cold winter weather.
Long after Minnesota's milkweed goes to seed, life slows down with the cold. If you ever drive Highway 61 along Minnesota's Mississippi River, watch for marker 147. See it, and you'll find a party. Something's up.
So today we're here celebrating Waterfowl Observation Day.
It's usually the second or third weekend of November.
We get about 20% of the northeastern population of tundra swans that are moving through the refuge, and of course you can hear their chorus today. The party has started.
Birds of a feather get together to try and catch an up-close and fairly personal peek.
Take a peek, Beth.
Even at just 8 degrees above zero.
Everybody's nose is dripping, but we stick with it. Can't resist.
People gather at this roadside stop to look at birdie life in the Upper Mississippi River National Refuge.
It's rare to see such masses of birds, such numbers of them.
Well, the main birds we're hearing and seeing are the tundra swans. They come here to feed and rest on their way to the Chesapeake Bay, which is where they go in the winter. And each swan will eat about 6 pounds of arrowroot tubers a day. They're hungry, but they're here to rest and feed. This is Tundra Central in November.
Terry Greer geared up with fancy camera lenses and a big spotting scope.
And binoculars, of course. So I have everything. It's one of the great migrations of the country, and very few people know about it.
Oh, Kate Fitzgerald knows.
I think the first time I came down to look at the swans was probably 30 years ago.
She's been dressing in proper migration gear ever since.
I've got lots of layers on, dressed like a good Minnesotan. Lots of wool.
The bald eagles are out here today.
There are all sorts of geese.
We've got some cool diving ducks.
They're all beautiful.
There's just so much to see in one small space.
This is Deke. This is my favorite lab. He's a fixture here. People recognize him from other years. Dekey.
It's just fun to see so many birds that you just don't normally see in Minnesota.
I like the sound. It's kind of a comforting sound, even though it's noisy. They're amazing to watch and listen to.
So, next November, listen for the birds. Look for the crowd. It's a little piece of Christmas early in November.
I always think of it like that package that I've ordered that is finally arriving. It's a fun celebration to look forward to every year.
It's magical. This is a bucket list place to come if you're a birder or any outdoor enthusiast. This is the place to be in November to see swans.
Still ahead, off the football field and into a pheasant field alongside the biggest names in Minnesota sport.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Radco Truck Accessories, White Bear Lake Superstore, and by Totem Resorts, the premier destination for world-class fishing.
Today's Minnesota Bound Classic takes my dad, Ron Shera, back to the year 1998.
To the day he met Minnesota's Vikings outdoorsman.
Now, a field of pheasants might be any hunter's dream, but for these NFL players, there's another field of dreams. It's a winning record and purple pride. Guess who's wearing a purple bandana and toying with Viking linebacker Pete Bursage? When a day of football practice comes to a close, some Viking players return to the field where sunrise starts a different game. It begins with a country-style breakfast at the Dewdrop Inn in the country town of Hoffman, Minnesota. All kinds of purple was present, and the Vikings, between bites, signed autographs for local fans. But they weren't the only celebrity waiting to head for the pheasant fields. At Elk Lake Heritage Preserve, the rolling prairie has almost everything but goalposts. Ringneck pheasants have plenty of evasive moves, along with their own kind of aerial game. Yet Raven showed a few moves of her own. Like the Vikings, she's at the top of her game, too. Football and hunting, two different fields, but the players often are the same.
It started back when my dad took me out. He introduced me to the sport, and ever since then I kind of fell in love with it, just being out in nature and taking advantage of the natural resources that God put on this earth for us. This here kind of takes your mind off of the upbeat tempo of city life.
But this game also has a second half. Now it was time to trade shotguns for walleye fishing rods. It was a move that didn't bother tight end Hunter Goodwin.
It's a path that you can take that'll veer you away from a lot of the bad influences out there today. A lot of the things that go on here, you can't capture them on film. You can only capture them in your heart.
Linebacker Pete Bursage grew up a city boy, a boy who discovered fishing and then fell in love.
It's a really fulfilling lifestyle to be able to go out on a Sunday and crack heads and go nuts and have a lot of fun, and then on a Tuesday to be able to come out to a lake somewhere in Minnesota where it's calm and serene and nature, and it's a good, healthy contrast.
It might be a long way from football Sundays to fishing and hunting, but when the right play is called,
you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy.
Well, that's for sure.
Well, that wasn't a bad first half.
No, so far so good. I'm glad you're not doing any of the shooting. We'd be finding a lot of scratch birds.
Lots of players still love to hunt and fish.
Maybe we need to invite a few of them out.
I like that idea. Well, that about does it for us. We'll see you back here next week.
In the meantime, don't forget to introduce someone new, including a Minnesota Viking, to the great outdoors.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. To get more Minnesota Bound, including full episodes, go to mnbound.com. And to follow our latest adventures, like us on Facebook.